Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. So I thought it would be really good to get off politics for a while, which has been something we've all been focused on with what's going on in the United States and what's going on in Canada right now, and focus on a little bit of fun. And the guy that I know in Mississauga that puts on a lot of fun is Elton Rohn, who is a Elton John tribute band leader, and the man is just spectacular, a lot of fun, and he's had an incredible year touring around Canada and the United States, and he's got a date coming up in Markham in a short while. So Elton Rohn, welcome to the show, sir.
Hi, Brian. I hope you're doing well.
I'm doing great, thank you. I got to tell you, a great time on New Year's Eve. I went to, other than you, a favorite band of mine called That 70s Band in Long Island, New York. They played in a place called the Suffolk Theater, all 70s disco music all night long, covers of every great 70s disco song that I loved, dancing all night long. It was just spectacular. There's something about dancing to the music that you know and you remember and you love from whether it's your teenage years or young adult years that makes things special. And I think it's one of the things that I love about watching you. Tell me how you got into doing Elton John music.
Well, there's a direct line chord to the music of the old days, and as I got older, I kept going back to the old music because that's what I listen to most of the time. It's not that I don't like the new acts, I do, and I listen to them as well, but those old albums are just spectacular. So growing up, I always had the Elton Johns and the Billy Joels and Bruce Springsteens and Chicago's always on my playlist all the time. And later in life, as I started working, both my brother and I worked for a record company. And after I left the record company and my brother had just left the record company, he was at Canvas Global, and I was writing music for television, which I was just having a blast. I put a recording studio in my house. I could get up every day in my pajamas and go down to the studio and work all day. That was the kind of job I had. So I was quite content, but we decided just for fun one Sunday night, we would go to a bar and play. And when we did it, everybody loved it. And the owner said, "Hey, if I flip you some more dollars, will you play longer?" Then he said, "You got to come back next week." So we decided the following week, I was a guitarist at the time. We decided to bring a piano. And I put the piano down, and halfway through the night, I played Rocket Man, and the place went crazy. So that was kind of the start of it. And then we decided we got asked back again the following week. We did a whole night of Elton John music. And from there, it just grew and grew. Next thing you know, we got invited to play the Elton John convention in Las Vegas. And that's when I said, I better take it seriously and get some sequin outfits and piano covers and the whole bit. So I went the whole 9 yards, and it's expanded ever since. It's so now we're playing like the big venues. We're constantly getting asked to travel, and it's an absolute blast. It's really not work. It's a lot of fun. The work part is now when I'm home and I'm on the computer and I'm booking the dates and I'm doing the paperwork. Once I hit the road and we get into the venues, it's just a blast. And everybody in the world knows Elton John's music. So it's kind of easy if we go up there. We do it pretty well. And then we play the
You
music
do it
and I
very
get to
well.
watch.
Tell me, like
Yeah.
you play like him, you look like him, you
Mhm.
sound like him. What happened?
What happened was I was a guitarist, all right? And I always used to have idols when I was a kid. Terry Kath was my idol from Chicago. Chicago, my dad worked for CBS Records, so Chicago were his buddies. And they would come to Canada and they were very close. So my dad was a big fan of horns. He always loved listening to horns and music, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Chicago. And when Elton John released Honky Cat, the Honky Chateau record, it had the horn riffs in it. My dad loved the album and brought it home. So he put it on the turntable and I just gravitated to it. I just thought it was the best thing I'd ever heard. I became a huge fan of Elton John's. So I got all of his albums and I started listening. And what every kid usually does, I don't know if you did this when you were a kid, but I certainly did, was I'd stand by the record player and I'd close my eyes and I'd sing along with Elton or whoever your favorite artist was. I'd pretend I was playing an instrument in the band. You just let your mind go. Because back then we only had albums. We didn't have videos or anything. We would get maybe one picture on the album and we would just let our imaginations go. So I actually pretended I was in Elton's band and I would sing all the background vocals with them. And then years later, after I was playing guitar, I decided to buy a piano. I wanted to teach myself how to play. So the best way to do that was just listening to all those Elton albums again. And I actually play like Elton because that's the way he plays, very percussively. I don't play classically. I don't play like a lot of other players. I could never play like a Chick Corea, but I could certainly play like Elton because he pounds the piano and I loved it. So even if you gave me a piece of classical music, I would pound the piano. I'm totally Elton John on piano, And then everyone started telling me how much I look like him. And when I would sing, because I grew up with his albums, singing the albums with him, I had all the inflections in the voice. So after a while, people started telling me, "Boy, do you ever sound like Elton John?" We just put it all together, and voila, there it is, Elton Ron.
Fantastic. Tell me about the rest of your band, because you've got a couple of other very good musicians that you perform with, don't you?
Oh, they're great musicians. We a couple of the guys have played in some other big bands. I have Laurie Ingalls in the band, played with Bob Segarini, rest in peace, Bob. And he's played around the city of Toronto. Sammy Bosivis is a fantastic guitarist. He's very good friends with Kim Mitchell and Mike Tilka from the Max Webster days, and he actually did some overdubs on the old Ronnie Hawkins album that was recorded at Massey Hall. He's there. Ian Turner is a big musician in and around Toronto. He's so versatile. He started as our sub bass player, and now he's our drummer. So he plays multiple instruments. Matthew Marin's also another multi-instrumentalist. He plays bass in the band, but he also plays piano and guitar, and he can sing. Everybody sings in the band. Everybody's very talented, and we have Lester McLean who joins the band probably about 80% of the time. He plays saxophone and percussion and acoustic guitar. And as I said, all the guys sing live. We all do all the harmonies live. We don't rehearse that much anymore because everybody knows the songs. So really, when we get on stage, we haven't seen each other for a while. That's why it's so much fun. Every time we see each other, we're all smiles. We get on stage and we just let it rip. It's so much fun.
And you've got an event coming up shortly in Markham, I understand?
Yes, we are there on January 16th, and it's a Thursday night, and we're going to play the Flato Theater. Last time we sold it out. There's a few tickets left, so if anybody wants to come to the show, it's going to be fantastic. And I'll let you know that we have a special guest that we're going to bring in. Her name is Talia Schlanger. Some people may know Talia because she is the sub co-host of the radio show Q with Tom Power. Talia's subbed in there. She's interviewed some of the big stars like Sting, and she just did a great interview with Katie Lang. But she also toured. She did American Idiot, and before that, she did We Will Rock You. She's a fantastic singer. She's recorded her first album, and it's phenomenal. One time we were playing a venue, and she was there, and we invited her up to sing, and she does an incredible Kiki D. So we asked her if she was around on the 16th, and she is. So she's going to open for the band and come join us for a few songs. So that's going to be a nice added attraction. If you haven't seen her with the band, it's magical.
Well, what's that duet that Elton John does
Don't
with?
Go Breaking My Heart. It's a real crowd pleaser. The crowd goes crazy when we do it.
And you're
And
going
we'll
to do
do
it?
it. We'll do it for sure on Thursday.
Fantastic. Wonderful. If people want to get tickets, how do they get them? Where do they go?
They
Flato?
can go to the Markham Flato Theater page, and under the events, you'll see all the bands listed that are playing there. You can just click on there and buy tickets. And if you're not sure where to go, you can always go to my site, eltonron.com. Just click on dates and then find Markham. Click on it. It'll take you right to the ticket box office.
That's great. You've had quite a year touring. Tell us about some of the places you've gone last year.
Yeah, we always, it's funny because at the start of the year, I always think the same thing. I said, gee, I hope I can get enough dates for next year. I'm looking at the schedule for next year, and we've already got between 40 and 50 dates. And last year we did 40 to 50 dates. In 2024, we played to 70,000, a little bit more than 70,000 people, which just blows my mind. And like I said before, everywhere we go, everyone's singing the songs with us. So it just makes it really easy. And the more we play, the more people see us and the more gigs we get. I'll get phone calls. We just played New Year's Eve in Chicago. While you were out there playing disco, we were in Chicago doing Elton. And from that show, I've already got 3 phone calls from people that were at the show. One of them was a CEO from a company. They want us for a corporate party. Another one wants us to come play their amphitheater. So everything always kind of spins off of the shows that we play. We've had a great deal of success in America. That's where most of our shows are. We've played everywhere from Michigan, Illinois, Ohio. We're going back to Kansas City and Iowa. It's crazy. We're going to Myrtle Beach. The phone just keeps ringing. So as long as it's ringing, I'm picking it up, and as long as I can sing and hit the high notes, we'll keep doing the song. We'll keep doing the shows.
Fantastic. You talked last time we chatted about tribute bands, and that some people, have a negative attitude toward tribute bands for some reason, and yet other people love them because it, brings back the memories of their days gone by, their wonderful teenage years, whatever. Tell me a little bit about why tribute bands are successful, and also why some people don't respect them.
Well, I think the reason they're successful is because there's a lot of people today are kind of struggling with the new music. They either don't get it or like they turn on the Grammy Awards and they don't know who the artists are. Back in the day in the 70s, we really only had radio and television. It was it was a much smaller amount of places you could go to get your music. And when you turned on a radio station in Toronto, you heard everything. Now everything is so fragmented. There's 500 stations, you really don't get to hear a lot of everything else. So what's happening with people is they're getting their one or two favorites, and that's kind of all they're being exposed to. But when people get exposed to those great albums of the 60s and the 70s, it's like a new exploration for them. And all these kids today are discovering James Brown and even early, the Jackson Five and all that Motown stuff. And they're discovering Elton John. That's why Elton John is so iconic today, that he's got a whole new wave of new people that love his music. And he's kept it relevant by doing, the Disney movies, and he keeps going, and now he's got the Dua Lipa thing. But I think in general, the tribute acts, if you do it well, you could really strike a chord, because a lot of tribute acts now can actually surpass from what the artists today can do. A lot of them are in their 70s, almost 80 years old. They can't play it the way they used to play it, nor would we expect them to. So if you get some 30-year-old kid coming along who can sing Led Zeppelin, there's going to be a lot of Led Zeppelin fans that can connect with that. And that's what's happening. So if you're good at it, the problem with tribute acts is that there's too many of them now. Everybody's doing it because anybody can put on a costume. But if you weed through all the kind of average talented ones, and you pull out the plum, the really good tribute acts, there's some spectacular shows going on out there. And some people have big budget touring shows. A couple Pink Floyd shows have massive trucks that come in and do the whole thing. So I think it kind of hits a chord, and it lets people kind of re-experience everything that they did when they were in their teens. Like for me, when I was in the 70s, I got to see all the great bands. So for me to go to see a tribute now of someone who's going to play Queen or Pink Floyd, it really can take me back to the days that when I really saw them live. And for a kid today, who never got a chance to see Pink Floyd, but really maybe listen to Dark Side of the Moon, they can go and now see a band play the thing live. And it's sort of reminiscent of the way Pink Floyd played. It won't quite be on the same scale, but it's pretty close. So for our shows, we hit all the high notes. We hit everything the way Elton used to play it. And there's a lot of energy. We do everything live the way Elton used to play. So we could give people a little bit of the taste of what it was like back in '74 at Maple Leaf Gardens when they went to see Elton John rock. And by the way, that show he did at Maple Leaf Gardens was only a couple of weeks before he went to Madison Square Gardens with John Lennon for the famous last show that John Lennon played, which I kind of put together in my head a couple of days ago when we were talking about anniversaries. So those days for me were the most spectacular days of music. A $7 ticket, you could go see Freddie Mercury and Queen. So you can't really see that anymore. You could see the new Queen if you want with Adam Lambert. For me, I really am a Freddie fan, so I'll go see my friend in Simply Queen, who just nails Freddie,
So
and it's
Lambert
just
does a pretty
fun.
good job too.
Yeah, there's a lot of really, really good bands out there and tributes, but the problem is there's too many of them now. It's kind of watered down, and a lot of the average talent is, I want to say this politely, a lot of them are trying to put themselves into like a lot of theaters and bigger venues, and it's not really taking. Like some of them will play to half a house, and what happens is it kind of waters down the whole tribute market. So at some point, something's got to give. Either some of the acts kind of have to weed their way out, or it's just going to explode with like everything all the time, all tributes, which I don't think we want. We still want a lot of original artists out there. I still like to go see a Tom Cochrane, and I still like to go see the bands like, I see Kim Mitchell, Burton Cummings. They have a great original song, so I still want to see that. But there's a market for the tributes. We're playing all the same venues that Burton Cummings is playing now. Larry Gowan. We kind of joke about it that, here I am on the same poster on the same wall as these guys. We follow Bachman Turner Overdrive out in Edmonton when we're going to be out there. So it's just really fun. So people can go and see a serious artist like a Randy Bachman, and then they can go have fun the next night and see a Bee Gees tribute. It's music. It's just there's either good music or bad music, and if you do it well, I think there's a lot of people that want to hear it.
Why does music resonate with us so much?
Well, I think there's a new study that's just coming out. I saw something on the news the other night that's saying that they're really studying music for what it does to the brain. I think that It's funny because there's a lot of things I can't remember where I put my car keys, and I can't remember maybe what I was going into a room to go get, or what I was going to do, or when I pick up the remote. I can't remember what TV show I wanted to watch, but I can remember lyrics from the 1970s from my favorite albums. So you kind of wonder, how does that happen? There's something that's formatted in our brains that music strikes a chord. And a lot of people, like they say, it's really good for anxiety. It's really good. It can soothe animals. It can make them calm. There's something about music that I think still is undiscovered, that it does something to us that most of our life can't do. And that's, it gives us joy. It gives us calmness. It gives us inspiration. There's a whole bunch of things in the brain that they're studying. And I think they're going to find that music is the best therapy that the world's ever seen.
What's your favorite Elton John song?
Yeah, so my favorite songs are maybe not the ones that we play in concert, but I'm trying to put them in. There's two songs that I love the song Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. Ever since, and the reason I love it so much, a lot of songs when they hit the radio, there's a lot of copycats, and there's a lot of songs that it sounds like, or that it was inspired from. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road is so unique. I've never heard another song that sounds like it. He wrote it. It was totally original then. It's totally original now. It still sounds good when it comes on the radio. So Goodbye Yellow Brick Road would be one. And then there's another song from Blues for Baby and Me off of Don't Shoot Me, I'm Only the Piano Player. We just started playing it. Oh my God, the feeling I get when I play that song on stage. I used to listen to that song for hours and hours, and now I put it into our set. We'll probably play it in Markham now that I think about it, just because I enjoy that song so much. And maybe the third one would be Funeral for a Friend, Love Lies Bleeding from Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. It's like 10 or 11 minutes long. Every second of it's joyous for us to play. We, as a band, we're looking at each other, we're smiling the whole time. Just a great piece of music, and a wonderful achievement from Elton John and Bernie, that song.
What do you think about when you're putting on some of those outrageous costumes?
Well, okay. So here's my theory on that, because I had some people tell me, they said, um, are you going to wear the duck outfit, and are you going to wear that? And Elton John said something. He said that when he turned 30, he thought he started looking ridiculous in the crazy outfits. And here I am. I'm much older than that. So I said, I will never wear a duck outfit, and I will never wear the feather boas, the crazy, crazy stuff. If ever a 22-year-old Elton John comes along and a tribute artist, he can wear all that crazy stuff. I'm going to stick to my sequin outfits, my sequin jackets. So I'm more like, a little bit like Elton looks like today, but I sound like Elton back in the 70s. So I'm all about, like, every time I go out down to the States, especially, they have these stores that have like 40 and 50 racks of jackets, and I buy like 6 or 7 new sequin jackets. My closet, I am going to have the garage sale of all garage sales when I'm finally done with this Elton thing. I have a whole room full of jackets and shoes and glasses. I don't know what I'm going to do with it when I'm done.
And the glasses. Yes, no question. He had those
Lots of
glasses.
glasses.
Um, what's the biggest event you've played to?
Um, as far as people, we've set a couple of records for attendance. So we did a show in Pennsylvania just this past year. They have most of the big festivals have a policy of they don't repeat acts, but they repeated us 2 extra years. So we played 3 years in a row there. Any given night when they have a show, they get about 2,500 people. When we played there, we got 12,200 people. It was over the hills, and the police had to close the streets. We got so many people there that they're not inviting us back this year because they couldn't handle the crowds. We're too big for the venue. So that was like spectacular. Then I would think something like Peterborough Music Fest, we had 11,000 something there. We've done about 10 to 13,000 about, half a dozen times. Those are the big ones. We haven't done any 20,000 people yet. That's a lot of people. So
What's
I
it
think 10
like?
to 12 is big enough.
What's it like sitting down at a piano singing in front of 12,000 people? Like what's that like?
Okay, I don't get nervous when I play. I remember Mick Jagger once said something, and they asked him, do you ever get nervous when you have to go out and do a show? And he said, no. He goes, I have it in my mind that I can't wait to go out and show people what we can do. So in my mind, as we're getting ready to go on stage, I keep thinking, like, I can't wait to hit the piano and let them hear how much I sound like Elton John. Because my guitarist always says it. If we open with your song, my guitarist always says to me, you had him at It's a Little Bit Funny. Because everybody's waiting to hear if this Elton John guy sounds like Elton John. And by about the end of the first song, we've got him. because we sound just like Elton, and they're not expecting it, and they're not. It's just something that kind of comes out of left field. So if people have seen us before, they're right into it and they're excited and they're cheering. And if they haven't seen us before, there's a bit of a shock factor. But that's my favorite thing. So when I'm on stage, it's all about, have we won over the audience, and how long does it take to win them over? Lately, it's taken like a song, and then the rest of the night's a party. I've never had a problem. We've never had a bad show. We've had some shows where maybe it takes a couple of songs to get them into it. But generally, when people come to an Elton John tribute show and they find out that the tribute band's pretty good, they're in party mood from the start. Well, you've been to our shows. You see what people do. They get up, they
I got to
dance.
tell you, I've seen you not half a dozen, but almost half a dozen times so far, and it's always been spectacular. You're an incredible performer.
Thank you.
You do sound, look, and act
It's
and
crazy.
play like Elton John, and frankly, I've had a wonderful time every single time. So I'm so glad that you're playing somewhere nearby, and
Yeah, we
I
we've
encourage
had people
people to check you out.
we've had people see us like a dozen times, and they keep coming, and they always say, "Hey, I want to bring my sister. When are you coming back?" So that's why we keep playing. We return to venues about 90% of the time. We get rebooked into the same venues over and over. We don't play Toronto all that much. So this show at the Markham Theatre is going to be one of the few times we're going to be in Toronto this year. I made a list, and I think we're only playing Toronto once in 2025 so far. Maybe another one will come up, but we're everywhere. We're going to be in New York. I'm looking here, Illinois, Kansas City, Iowa. We're going to Winnipeg, Regina, Pennsylvania. We're going to Moose Jaw for the first time. We're going to play Gravenhurst. We're going to go to Edmonton. We're doing a big charity in New York City. We're going to go to Myrtle Beach. It's crazy. Stratford, Wisconsin. The list just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And at some point, it's like I have to cut off the number of shows we're playing, because we have just not enough days in the weekend. We generally mostly play weekends. So once our weekends are full up, I can't play anymore. So
What's the website people should go to if they want to check out the schedule?
eltonron.com, eltonrohn.com, and you just click on dates, and anytime we can announce something, we'll put it there. Generally, I'm going to do a big announcement very soon that's going to have our 2025 schedule. I'm just waiting for the okay from some venues, and I'm still waiting to hear back from a couple of especially the casinos. They kind of ask us to wait for a certain date to announce a show. So I'm just waiting for the clearance of when I can announce the big tour for next year. And then I'll post everything up. But there are some dates up there now on the site, and people can always go back and check on a daily basis. We update the site. So
And you're
they'll all
playing
be up there
Markham
pretty soon.
on Thursday,
The 16th,
January 16th.
Thursday, January 16th, 8 p.m.
Elton Ron, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, Brian. It's always a pleasure talking to you. All the best. And rock on. We'll hope to see you at a show soon.
Fantastic. You got to check him out, everybody. The performance is unbelievably spectacular. You'll walk out there singing Yellow Brick Road.
Yeah,
Good day,
that's
everybody.
it. Okay.